There you go. So we're going to start off. Is that all right? I've been told 20 minutes, but Jim and Helen have heard me speak, so it might be a little bit longer. I apologise. There you go. If you've got your Bibles, do you want to turn, he says, turn into his phone, turn to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 to 9. Okay, and it says, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 to 9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk to them when you sit in your house, when you walk down the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of the house and on your gates. And Psalm 145, verses... I'm going to read the whole thing, I think. Psalm 145. A praise of David. I will extol you, my God and King. I will bless your name forever and ever. Every day I will bless you, and I will praise your name forever and ever. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. One generation shall praise your works to another, and shall declare your mighty acts. I will meditate on the glorious splendor of your majesty, and on your wondrous works. Men shall speak of the might of your awesome acts, and I will declare your greatness. They shall utter the memory of your great goodness. They shall sing of your righteousness. The Lord is gracious and full of compassion, slow to anger and great in mercy. The Lord is good to all, and his tender mercies are over all his works. All your works shall praise you, O Lord, and your saints shall bless you. They shall speak of the glory of your kingdom and talk of your power, to make known to the sons of men his mighty acts and the glorious majesty of his kingdom. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and your dominion endures throughout all generations. The Lord upholds all who fall and raises up all who are bowed down. The eyes of all who look expectantly to you, and you give them their food in due season. You open your hand and satisfy every desire of every living thing. The Lord is righteous in all his ways, gracious in all his works. The Lord is near to all those who call upon him. To all who call upon him in truth, he will fulfill the desire of those who fear him. He will also hear their cry and save them. The Lord preserves all who love him, but all the wicked he will destroy. My mouth shall speak the praise of the Lord, and all flesh shall bless his holy name forever and ever. And there was one word that's in both of those passages, and it's generations. And I've entitled it, One Generation Shall Speak to Another. One generation shall speak to the next. And Counties has been around for 125 years, which is definitely older than me. But you've never heard of it. And we are in the UK. We're a national charity in England, Scotland, Wales, and we come over to Northern Ireland. And we've been around. But we've been described probably as one of the quietest, most secret mission organisations in the country. But when you sort of hear about people and who is involved, and Stevie, yeah, I've just given him a book. So here's a book that was written, and it's called Making Jesus Known Today and Tomorrow. So rather than looking back on the past 125 years, we've written a book. I didn't write it. My chapter wasn't in there. But we've written a book about how to spread the gospel in the 21st century. So some of you are doing that. So Stevie's got a book. Anybody else want a book? There you go. Have a book. There you go. Have a read. It's in lots of different chapters about all sorts of different mission work, evangelism work. Read it, pass it on to somebody else. Okay. But Counties, I've got to push a button, haven't I? Yes. So I can probably look behind me and know what's coming up. But there you go. Oh no, have I pushed the wrong button? Down, the down button. The down button, not the up button. Right, okay. So there you go. Counties has got 3 words in its strapline: inspire, equip, and engage. And that's what we want to do. And I'm going to go between who counties are and what the Bible says, if that makes sense. Okay? So 3 goals. Inspire, remind you of what matters so much in the gospel. To equip us to give practical steps to help pass our faith on, and to engage, to challenge us to play our part, whatever we do, wherever we are. So does that all make sense? That's sort of what counties want to do, but that's what Jesus commands us to do. Okay, so inspire. There's my first one. Psalm 145, verse 4 says, "One generation shall commend your works to another." And we're part of a long chain. The only reason that we're here today is because somebody told us about Jesus. It could have been your parents, it could have been your youth leaders, your teachers, your friends, but somebody told us about God. So we want to inspire the next generation, and maybe even our own generation when we're out talking. Now, do you mean by the markets a market, or is it just the area around here? Because that confused me last time. It's like the markets, and I was like, what market are they talking about? Anyway, so when you're talking about, so it doesn't say one generation might tell another. It says one generation shall commend it. It's an intentional, it's a calling. So we're all called to tell others about Jesus. And we live in a culture, looking at most of you, apart from my wife, we live in a culture where we're constantly being bombarded with messages from TikTok and Netflix and WhatsApp and Snapchat. Any Snapchatters here? No? The younger generation with their streaks and all. I know the lingo. I don't understand any of it. Okay? But we're getting that all the time. So if we don't tell people about God and his power and his love for them and his faithfulness, who will? You know, we all pass on messages and photographs and everything on WhatsApp and various things about, you know, our football team, how they're doing and our hobbies. But how about passing on the glory of God? So inspiring a generation. Let's inspire the children, not just with facts, but with how our lives and our stories and our examples. So that's inspire. So that's our first one. Second one, comes up, is to equip. How do we do it? How do we equip people? Deuteronomy 6 gives us a bit of a blueprint. Impress them upon your children. Always sounds quite violent, doesn't it? Yeah, but it says talk to them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, when you get up. You know, we read children bedtime stories and we pray with them at night and when they get up in the morning. So pretty much all the time, whenever you see children, tell them about God and what he's done. But this instruction isn't just for parents. So all of you going, oh, well, I've not got children yet. I haven't got, you know, whatever. It's for the whole community of faith. We're all responsible for telling the next generation. So whether you're 15, 25, 65, 95, we can all be part of shaping their lives. Make God normal in our daily lives. Talk about him at the dinner table. Talk about him in the markets, whether they're Catholics or Protestants or Christians or Muslims or whatever. But we can talk to them in the car, on a walk. We can talk about Jesus. Tell real stories. You know, real stories are much better than made-up stories, although some of Jesus' parables were quite good. Don't just talk about the stories that are the Bible stories, David and Goliath. Talk about how when God's answered your times of need, your prayers, when he's healed someone, when he's brought you peace in a hard time. Use your gifts, whether it's tech. Where's the little baby that was doing the tech? There you go. Music, drama, whatever it is, Bible study. You know, you've got a theological degree and somebody wants to know about the Bible and phone up and say, how do I find out about? Well, we can tell you about the Bible. Use the skills that you've got. Children need people who will invest in these gifts in them for their spiritual formation. Ask good questions. Think about the questions. Children love questions. Most of you, well, not most of you, all of you have been to school, haven't you? Apart from the little one down there. So we've all been to school, and questions are great, and we don't always want to put our hand up to answer the question or to look foolish. But sometimes we think the teacher's questions are stupid. There's only one person. No, some of you are still at school. You still at school? All still at school? Yeah, not university, all still at school. Teachers ask you stupid questions and you think that's a stupid... I could think of a better question. So my thing is, don't ask the question like, did you enjoy Sunday school? Maybe ask a question, what did God show you today? Because that's a more thinking question, okay? But also model consistency. Children are watching how we respond to stress, to forgiveness, to failure, to all the things that happen in our lives. So that's equipping. And then, and we can give you more examples of how counties can equip as well. And then engage. How do we engage? So what can you do? Because if we want to be inspired, let's go out and tell people about Jesus. That's great. How do we do it? That's the equipping. How do we engage with people? Well, it doesn't matter whether you're 15, 60. There's something that we can all do. Teenagers, adults, everybody. Younger kids look up to you. So if you're a teenager, the little ones will look up to you because they want to be like you because you're cool, okay? You are the cool ones in church. Us old people aren't cool. We think we're cool, but we're not, okay? But they look up to you, so you can model your lives on Jesus, okay? Be a role model, be a helper in Sunday school. Share your journey with them. If you've got struggles that in your life, that talk to your parents, talk to older people about that. Parents, you don't need to be theologians. No, that's the big scary thing about being a parent. You need to know everything, and we don't. We do really, honest. Yeah, but we don't know everything. But we do need to be there. We do need to be present. We do need to be honest, and we do need to make room for God in our everyday lives. And for grandparents, and I'm now in that category, older adults, youth workers, we've got wisdom, we've got stories, we've got stability. We can share them. We can offer to mentor. You can offer to mentor. Pray for children by name. It's great that you're at the beginning. What are we going to pray for today? Because we're just going to pray and then you don't know, and there's all these sort of prayers going up from different people. But if you know people and you can pray for people by name, that's great. Volunteer. How can you volunteer in the church? And there's a phrase that you all probably have come across. It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a church to raise a disciple. So let's be a generation that doesn't just keep the faith, but passes it on. Let's go back to Psalm 145. They shall speak of the might of your awesome deeds, and I will declare your greatness. If we can do that, that's great. God's greatness doesn't end with us. Let's equip ourselves to share it. Let's inspire children with it, and let's engage in every opportunity we have to pass it on. Because one generation shall commend his works to another. And that's what Counties is all about, telling other people about Jesus. And it started 125 years ago with a few guys, they were guys, a few guys going out and just standing on a street corner, like you do, preaching the gospel. And as they were preaching the gospel, they found that what they were doing was they were going, talking, people were listening, and then people were going, we need more of this. So they were putting missions up and big tents, and there's loads of tent missions, aren't there, in Northern Ireland? I keep on seeing signs for missions and tent missions, and these were all the things, and people had caravans and going around. So that was the old, I've got to be careful because you're still doing it over here, and we're still doing it in England as well. But that was the old way of doing it, it was like, let's go where the people are. But now what we're doing is we're finding that more and more is there are lots of churches that are around that want revitalisation, that need they need to plant new churches because they're getting too big for the buildings they're in. And you've got buildings that are too old, or not the buildings are too old, but the people in them are too old. And how do you revitalise something that's old? And the people there are going, well, you can't touch that because that chair has been Mrs. Smith's chair and she's always had it there. So nobody ever sits there, but it's a great place to sit or whatever. So counties will help in planting, revitalising churches. So that's one of the things that counties does and is involved with. Another thing that's involved with is one to lead. And again, that came out of gospel halls, brethren churches, that the congregations were getting older and the children weren't as many in the church. So children or youngsters, teenagers were going, it's only me, I'm only here, are there any other Christians in the world? Because it's only me. So what we were finding was One to Lead was a great program to bring youngsters from 15 to 22, 23 together once every term, and they'd meet up for a weekend, and they'd have some good solid Bible teaching, and they'd learn how to do tech, and they'd learn how to lead worship, and they'd learn how to write a sermon and preach a sermon and pray and lead Bible studies, and then go back to church and sit back in church and watch things going on. But it also meant that if you were only one person, you'd go to a venue and you'd meet 10, 15, 20 other people the same age, and you'd all have loads of stuff in common because you're all the same age, and you could all meet together and talk about the trials and pressures that you're under. So and the good things that come out of it. And some of those people that were on the early One to Leads are now church leaders, and some of them are going, that was great, do you know what? I don't want to be a church leader, but I can talk to people about my faith. So One to Lead is another project that Counties does. So that's One to Lead. And the next one is M4. And M4 is a European, not a European import, but it's a European-wide thing. And it's, again, planting churches, growing churches, building churches across. So again, if you want to get involved in M4, that's something else that Counties does. And then there's neighbourhood chaplains. Oh, I pushed the wrong button, that button. Neighbourhood chaplains, which again you might be doing, but what we found is people are sort of saying, we'd like to connect with the community, but we don't know how to, or we'd like to connect with the community, but somebody else is doing something, but what exactly do we want to do? So part of that is connecting, befriending and serving, and there's people in Counties that can tell you and help you about that. And then the one that I'm passionate, hopefully I sound passionate about all of them, but the ones that I'm passionate about are these, and I'm just going to watch my wife's face on this first slide. Jesus Live and Life Exhibition. So these are the ones that I help run. Jesus Live is our secondary school exhibition, and Jesus Live used to be a 40-foot trailer, and it's now a classroom-based exhibition that comes into a school. So last year, these are 2024 figures, so 33 schools were visited, 10,835 pupils reached. It says that up there, doesn't it? So it's grown a little bit, and we've had to build up from that thing called COVID. So we were in loads of schools, 70 schools before COVID, and then COVID happened, and we went into none. And then schools are like, oh, can you come back into our school? We're not sure about that. So we're praying that we'll be back into more schools, and that number will go from 33 back up to 72 again. And then Life Exhibition is, I'm going to tell you a lot more about Life Exhibition, but Life Exhibition is my one. And we visited 30 venues, 30 churches last year. Nearly 15,000 pupils reached. And I think there's another one that comes up there. Yep. And launching a second unit. We did that when did we do that? January. We did that in January 24. It says right there. I couldn't remember when it was. It's up there. And that's meant that we've gone from 22 schools, churches, up to about 30, and it's set to be 34 venues. We had 2 cancellations, so not quite as good as I expected, but that's fine. But again, we're reaching more and more pupils in schools. Again, there's our strapline, inspiring, equipping local churches. So that's what we do. And Life Exhibition, there's some little leaflets at the back that you can pick up, and pens. If you want to pick a pen up, have a pen. And hopefully the next slide goes orange, yeah. And just so that you know what Life Exhibition is, because I say, well, Stevie said, we're in England, everybody in England knows about us. Nobody in England knows about us either, but there you go. But there might be people that you have heard of. So have you ever heard of a guy called Sam Balmer? Have you ever heard of a guy called Glenn Johnson? Yeah. Have you ever heard of a guy called Stevie Walls? Yeah. Neil Spence? Yeah, okay. They're all guys that have been over here, that live over here, and they've all had Life Exhibition in their churches. And most of them have had Life Exhibition in their churches at least 8 times. So it's not something new that we're trying to bring into Northern Ireland and go, look, we want to bring this new thing in. It's been running since 2006. But lots of people haven't heard about it. So this, he says, hopefully, can we play the video? Is a very quick bit about Life exhibition. Oh, is it going to work? It might not. Oh.
Oh, it's been fantastic, just the opportunities that it's given us. Firstly, it arrived and was really straightforward to set up, and there was a wow factor when it was set up. So many of the children came in and looked round and went, oh, so there's that aspect of it.
It gives them an interactive opportunity to see how Jesus aligns with their lives nowadays, because we're talking about somebody from 2,000 years ago. Well, to them that's forever. So this brings it to the here and now in a way that they've really enjoyed.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, the technology really surprised me. Looking around, obviously all the children around me, I can see them all engaged. They're all, doing multiple choice questions in there. They've got their headphones on. They're all smiling, really enjoying it. It's brilliant.
It's been absolutely fantastic to see over 700 children come through the church, to sit and be quiet and listen to the story of Jesus, and then have fun and sing as well. It's been a joy to see.
Definitely, I would recommend they do. Yeah, everything has been thought out and thought through, so they arrive with absolutely everything that you need. All you need to do really is to organise who's going to do what. So supportive, it's been a fabulous experience, and so far it's run like clockwork.
And we just effectively introduce them to Jesus. And it's surprising how many children know about Jesus. In England and in Northern Ireland and Scotland and Wales, we have Catholics come to the exhibition, we have Muslims come to the exhibition, we have children that come in and are very vocal on the fact that they're atheists, but they come in and they find out about who Jesus is. But the big question, as I say, is what do you think? What do you think about Jesus? What do you know about Jesus? What sort of questions do you want to ask people, us as Christians, about Jesus? So that's that. Then we have Lifeline, which is about Jesus' Jewish roots. And in in the Bible, we look at the prophecies that are there about Jesus, and in the New Testament about the fulfillment of those prophecies. Now, we only have, when the children come in, they only have an hour in the exhibition, hour and 5 minutes, hour and 10 minutes in the exhibition. So we can't do the whole RE curriculum for the school in 1 hour. So what we tend to do is go, right, we can't do all of the prophecies and all of the fulfillments, so we'll just look at the birth, because later on in the exhibition we're going to look at Jesus' death and resurrection. So we have Jesus, his Jewish roots, and we look at some, you can see up there, just about, the birth story, Jesus' nativity. And then we have his teachings. And again, we haven't got time to do all of Jesus' teaching, so we just look at some of the parables that Jesus spoke about. And again, you can see them all in there with their headphones on, because they have about a 3-minute talk from an adult, and then they have 6 or 7 minutes on a tablet where they're looking at all sorts of good technical stuff and quizzes and things. And then we look at Life Works, Jesus' miracles. Again, we only look at one miracle because we haven't got time to look at all of them. And again, all the children totally engaged there in all the miracles. And then finally, is it finally? No, not quite. They have the tablets, because children love tablets, don't they? None of you have got your phones out. Brilliant, fantastic. But children love tablets. These are Android, the cheapest Android tablets I can get hold of. And all the children, the feedback we have is, it was brilliant. We were playing on the iPads. And I'm like, yeah, iPads, 400 quid each. And we've been giving them like 25 quid tablets. But that's what they think, so I'll go with that. So that's the tablets. What do you think about Jesus? And then Life Giver, his death and resurrection. So again, we've got the grass in there. It's a bit immersive. We don't tell the children it's a tomb. But they go into this darkened dome and they get a video about death and resurrection of Jesus. And when Jesus comes back to life again and the disciples see him, the big phrase that comes up again is, what do you think? And then it all fades to black. Absolute silence. You can hear a pin drop. And then a teacher or a child might go, wow, did that really happen? And then they come out of the Life Giver tent and they go into the cafe. And that's an opportunity to discuss what's been seen and experienced. And again, if you remember school, I know some of you are at school, but if you remember school, when the teachers ask you questions, if you're a visitor going into a school, the worst thing is when you ask a question and 30 children put their hand up and you see the teacher going, oh no. Because you know that whatever child you ask, they're going to give you the most ridiculous answer possible, and everybody else is going to laugh, and you've got to bring it back down from there. So what we've got is, you can't see them on here, but we've got lots of little clickers, little remotes. And so every child gets to answer the question, and their responses anonymously come up on the screen. So we get a really good feedback on what the children know and what the children have learned in the lessons. So that is, very briefly, slightly over my 20 minutes or whatever, Counties and Life Exhibition. So that is it. As I say, I've got some brochures there. If any of you want to scan the QR code, that will take you to our website and you can sign up and we'll send you information. But we do come over here, and we're back over again in September with Life Exhibition at, where are we, Castlereagh, and I'm not going to even try and pronounce the other one. Where? Ockram. I called it something else, and evidently that's about 80 miles the wrong direction. So Ockram, we're there in September, and our secondary school exhibition, Jesus Live, will be over here as well. And Castlereagh and Ballymena run our neighbourhood chaplains project, so if you want to see what they're like, you can go and see them there. But that is Life Exhibition and Counties. Thank you very much.